today's episode of the AI Trailblazer podcast, we have a very exciting guest. He is none other than Srinivasan from Goodmeetings AI. So before we start, for those of you who are just joining the podcast, we are Convert Inbox and we specialize in helping B2B and AI software companies grow their business and revenue. So if you want to have a free growth consultation for your company and you own a B2B software company, just drop us the word growth in the DMs below. Hey, so without further ado, first of all, it's a great pleasure to have you here as our guest today, Srinivasan. Could you start off with sharing a bit about yourself and what led you to start Good Meetings AI?
First of all, thanks a lot, Bruce, for inviting me over. It's a pleasure to be here. Hi, folks who are tuning in. My name is Srinivasan Narayan. I'm the co founder and CEO of the Good Meetings platform. A little bit about myself: born and brought up in India, did my engineering from one of the top engineering institutes of India, NIT Surathkal. Post that, I worked for 5 years in one of the top financial software firms called Intuit Technologies that builds world class products like QuickBooks and TurboTax. That's where I actually got introduced to products and got introduced to the whole process of product building. That's something that I fell in love with, and that's something I've been doing ever since. I worked there for 5 years, did my first product building exercise, built a SMS based product, realized that this is what I want to do all my life, product building. So decided to take a break first, did my MBA from one of the top institutes of the country and the world, ISB, the Indian School of Business. Did not take up a job, took the plunge of entrepreneurship full time, built my first startup called Cohort Plus, which was a social network for career aspirants, people interested in new age careers like product management, data science, digital marketing, etc. That company was acquired by EdTech unicorn Upgrad. Uh, I worked there for 1 year. I was heading the entire mobile app ecosystem for Upgrad, integrated the product, the team, the operations, and then I realized that it was time to take a plunge into entrepreneurship again, and I started with Good Meetings. So that's a brief about myself. Now, why Good Meetings, right? I think when I was at Upgrad, I realized that we all talk about the 10x engineer, we all talk about the 10x designer, we may also be talking about the 10x marketeer, but none of us talk about the 10x sales step, right? I realized that while technology had increased the productivity of engineers, marketeers, designers, there was a lot in sales that was yet to be done, and technology had not basically, pervaded that space. I have myself felt this problem across the various organizations I have worked with, where I realized that understanding sales conversations, trying to derive useful insights from them, which are actionable and which can help a company basically increase their revenue at no additional expense, was something that was yet to be done, right? And all of this came together when I was working at Upgrad, and I realized that there was a massive opportunity of using technology and especially AI in particular to improve the productivity of sales reps and thereby increase the revenue per sales rep and the overall revenue for an organization by actually increasing sales conversions. So that's what prompted me to start Good Meetings. We started Good Meetings in 2021, and since then we've seen the COVID wave, and then now we are actually at the forefront of the Gen AI wave, and now we are actually using Gen AI to basically not only improve the productivity of sales reps but also increase sales conversions for organizations by analyzing all their sales conversations. So that's a brief about me and the company.
Got it. So can you share more about what kind of problem does Good Meeting AI solve and like what kind of target audience is it for? I know you said salespeople, but are they like specifically salespeople in B2B organizations, or is there any particular niche that you are focusing on?
Yeah. So the exact problem that Good Meetings tries to solve is to basically increase the sales conversions of organizations by analyzing the sales calls of sales reps, right? And here, what we do is we do four things. something that I call 2AI or AI square. So there are two A's and two I's here, right? The first thing that we do is basically, audit all your sales calls. Typically what happens is as sales teams increase, they also have an audit team that is auditing these calls to not only give feedback to sales reps, but also to catch any compliance issues or any kind of mis-selling or violations, right? Now, typically the audit team cannot increase at the same scale as a sales team, and therefore what essentially ends up happening is audit teams are only able to audit at max 5 to 10% of sales calls. We come in here and we become like your extended audit partners. We use Gen AI to basically audit your sales calls, give you all the audit reports so that all your I's are dotted and all your T's are crossed. So the first problem that we solve is 100% audit with 100% efficiency. That's the first A. The second problem that we solve is of automation, right? The second A. Now, you talk to any sales professional across B2C or B2B, you will realize that these sales professionals, unite on one factor. All of them hate to update the backend of the CRM because it is a mundane task full of drudgery, right? I have seen this myself, and I've seen how CRMs are not, kind of completely full. So that's what automation does. We auto capture useful information from the sales conversations and we fill it back to the CRM through our AI agents, right? So that manual work is removed. Now, this does three, four very important things. One, it saves the time of the sales rep so that the sales rep can do more calls. Second, it ensures you have end to end CRM hygiene. All the information is basically pushed to the CRM. There is no manual error and no human bias. But most importantly, what it does is basically, kind of ensures that we reduce your CAC. Because what we essentially are doing is we are auto capturing useful information, especially around user profile or deal profiles, and pushing it back to the CRM. Now, this is mapped with the CRM conversion data. So then what happens is your teams can follow or form patterns around what are the kind of leads or deals that are converting. You go back to the marketing team and tell them to do better targeting. So you get better leads. Better leads basically get better profiling. Better profiling leads to better sales conversions. So essentially, we are hitting your bottom line by reducing your CAC by actually helping you understand what are the leads that are converting. So that's the second E, automation. The
I
third thing,
see. Okay.
the third thing
Yeah,
that
maybe
yeah,
let's
sorry.
keep this session here like more concise because we have a couple more questions to jump through. Yeah. So if it would be great if you can give like a high level overview.
The third thing that we do is give you insights. So we basically tell you which of your sales reps are performing well and which of your sales reps are not doing well and what is it that is working. So that reduces the gap between the best performing sales rep and the worst performing sales rep and ensures your top line increases because we ensure that there is more revenue per sales rep that is achieved. And the last thing that we do is insights. We give you useful insights by not only analyzing the calls of the sales rep, but also analyzing the response of the lead prospects. So that helps you with lead filtration and that helps you decide which of the leads that are the ones you should target faster, leading to faster sales conversions. So audit, automation, insights, inference. That's what the product is all about, leading to better sales conversions.
Okay, I think that is very helpful for the audience who are trying to understand this product. It's not just a note taker software, but there is a lot more value in it. So now I would like to ask as well, like what are your goals for the company, let's say for the next 6 to 12 months? Where do you want to see that?
So we are actually, growing pretty well, and in that way, God has been kind. So as far as the course of the company is concerned, uh, we work really well in three, four verticals, which include fintech, insurance, edtech, and SaaS. So our whole idea is to deepen our presence in these verticals, right? And thereby double our revenue in the next 6 months and triple our revenue in the next 18 months.
Okay, you said triple the revenue, is it like year over year?
Yes, that's the kind of response we are getting. Our systems have been kind of exploding ever since we've been live with all these features. So those are the kind of aggressive metrics we are gunning after right now.
Okay, so is the biggest priority right now like new class customer acquisition to meet this like 3x growth year over year? And then how are you
Absolutely.
currently generating new business opportunities?
Yeah. So one thing that we realized was this kind of a product works really well in high volume sales of B2C products, right? So anywhere where there is high volume sales involved and there is a B2C sale, this product works really well because there is no other way you can know how your sales reps are performing. So what we have essentially done is we found out all the verticals which are spending a lot of money in performance marketing, right? So once you know the verticals which spend a lot of money, B2C verticals or B2C kind of companies that spend a lot of money in performance marketing, invariably they have an inside sales team that basically, kind of works with the leads generated by performance marketing and tries to convert them. So essentially, we figure out the verticals which will be a good fit for our product. As I mentioned, fintech, insurance, B2B, SaaS. Then we go after some of the bellwether big companies which need this product. We work with them and purpose build a product for that vertical. Once you do that, two things happen. One, you have a very satisfied customer, which is one of the leaders in that vertical. Two, you really understand what works for this vertical. Then you go after all the companies in that vertical with a case study and testimonial of this big client and try to convert them. So essentially, verticalized targeting of companies which have a very, very deep pain point as far as sales leakages are concerned is the way we actually are moving forward and trying to increase our revenue.
Okay, that's interesting that you mentioned you wanted to go after the bigger customers in the niche first, right? But then I have a question on this. Like typically, let's say if you want to target a big customer, um, wouldn't they also be trying to see some kind of case studies or results first from, let's say, smaller companies? And then what if you reach out to this big company first and then you don't really have any case study yet? So yeah, how do you overcome this or potential like dilemma?
So there are two, three ways to do this, Bruce. One way to do this is whenever you try to approach a big company, you're not going to approach a lot of companies. You're going to approach a finite set of companies. So go through
Yeah.
warm connects first, right? If you go through warm connects, what happens is a level of familiarity is built and a level of credibility is already built out. So companies are ready to hear you out. So that is we have seen that to be a very good kind of icebreaker and kind of very good faith building or a confidence building exercise. The second thing I have realized is you have to show up, right? Even if you have not got an introduction through a familiar connection, if you actually persist, if you travel, if you go to their office, sit with them, it builds a lot of confidence. No enterprise sales happens on Zoom, right? So if you travel, if you show your face, if you show up every day, people know that you're really hungry for their for their dollars, and that kind of confidence builds over time. So they will probably give you a very small vertical initially to test you out, and once you start proving your worth in that vertical, you can actually kind of start expanding within that vertical. So essentially, I always tell companies that if you have to land a big enterprise client first, you have to give your 100%, book that travel, book that air flight ticket, go in, show up, right? Even if they have given you a small gap in the door, put your foot in the door, but ensure that your body gets in over a period of time.
Well, okay, that is very insightful for our audience who typically they might just rely on Zoom calls to try and close deals, but again you have shown the value of like um, physical face to face networking in
That
building
does
trust and yeah.
that works like a charm. I tell every company that you might have budgets for different expenses. Your travel budget is one budget that should actually get lapsed at the end of every month. Spend all that money. It is worth it.
Because it's an investment.
It's an investment, right? The more they see you in person, the more they are able to kind of talk to you, the higher the probability that a deal would convert. More importantly, it does two, three things. One, it proves to them that you are really hungry for that deal more than that guy who's probably joining in remotely from Zoom. Second, when you meet people one on one, when you meet people in person, the vibes are different, right? They are
Yeah.
able, they actually open up a lot more than they would have if you had actually just, kind of seen them on a Zoom call and just spoken about the product. Relationship building, right, does not happen on Zoom. And remember, all big transactions are just a byproduct of great relationships that you have built with your clients.
Wow. Okay, that is very valuable. So Can we talk a bit about your role within the company right now, and then like how does it fit into the bigger picture at Good Meetings AI?
Yeah. So, as the CEO of the company, I always tell people that I only have three to four roles. My first role in the company is to ensure that the company doesn't run out of money, that we are well capitalized, right? So, anything with regards to fundraising, with regards to investments, and also with regards to, closure of big enterprise deals, I get personally involved. So, the first role of me as a CEO is to ensure that the company doesn't run out of money. The second rule that I have is to ensure that all the members of the team are aligned towards a common goal. So setting the right strategy, setting the right vision, getting all the members of the team aligned, whether it is the head of marketing, whether it is the head of sales, whether it is the head of technology, whether it is the head of product, aligned towards that common goal is super important, right? With basically individual goals which are aligned between each of them and me. So setting the vision is my second, big responsibility. The third responsibility that I have is basically of recruitment. Given that this is the vision, this is the plan. Given that the company is well capitalized, how do we achieve it? And you will only achieve it by actually recruiting the right people. So those kind of take most of my time. If some time is left, then I actually dedicate it to wherever I feel I am needed. If my sales is not happening, sales is not firing, I get into sales. If product is not firing, then I get into product. Technology is not firing, I try to work with the CTO and try to kind of get things up and running. So that's basically the four roles that I say in a company in that order of priority. One, capitalization, ensuring the company doesn't run out of money. Second, setting the vision up. Third, basically, kind of ensuring the plan is executed to a T, right? And recruiting the right people. And finally, fourth, wherever I think things are not probably firing, get in there and work with the vertical head or that particular, division's head and help him or her out in basically executing things properly.
Okay, makes sense. So, what would you say right now is some of the biggest challenges you are facing as the CEO when it comes to growing your business and reaching some of the goals that you shared earlier, like the 3x revenue growth year over year goal?
I always believe that in a fast growing startup, the CEO's mentality, the CEO's outlook has to change every 6 months. And it is not easy because you will be in a, let's say, 0 to 1 stage for the first 6 months if you're growing really well. And then suddenly you have to change tracks and, kind of look at how, the company can go from 0 to 1 to 1 to 10, and then from 10 to 50, and then from that to 50, from that to 50 to 100, right? And all of this basically 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 to 100 basically requires the CEO to be very different. So the CEO first has to evolve with the company before he or she can expect the team to evolve, right? And that's something that doesn't come easily, because what took you from 0 to 1 will not take you from 1 to 10, and that will not take you from 10 to 50, and that will not take you from 50 to 100, right? So that mindset shift, right, and the switch that has to happen at every stage is easier said than done. So to me, kind of getting that imbibed within me and ensuring that that actually passes on to all the team members, I feel is the biggest challenge. So it's more internal, because once it is internally aligned, then we know that we have the wherewithal and the skill to, kind of hit the ball out of the park.
Yes, then what kind of challenges are you facing at your stage right now? Because you said there are different stages for a company, right? Like which stage are you at right now, and then like what are the biggest roadblocks you are facing right now in that stage of growth?
I think the challenge is a good challenge to have. It's a challenge of scale. As we are scaling, our systems are cracking up, right? Because the demand for our product is far outstripping the supply that we planned to have, right? So now we have to actually fortify more. We have to actually, increase and think about scale at every level, right? While we are trying to do that, the demand is so high that it is obviously, kind of breaching all the dams that we have built. So now it is the problem of scale, of understanding how we can actually, kind of scale in a blitz scale and not just scale, right? Because the opportunity is super hot, right? The demand is definitely there. We have found our product market fit. So the challenge now is to press the pedal and scale the company further. And those are all normal scaling challenges that any company faces at this stage, which is more like an inflection point for that company, right? So those challenges of scale is something that we are facing. But I can tell you that this is the best challenge that I can have. And I just can't complain because I feel that even where we are, God has been really kind.
Nice. So, how have you been? I'm sure the audience will be curious. Like, how have you been able to generate so much demand for your product? I know you mentioned something about networking and yeah, face-to-face relationship building. But what are the channels that you rely on to be able to drive this much demand?
Yeah, this is a very good question, Bruce. And the only way you can drive demand for a product is by actually building something that the end user wants. Paul Graham from Y Combinator makes a very important statement, right? Build something that the user wants. So figuring out what the user wants is basically, kind of the crux of how do you build something that has amazing demand. Now I'll give you I would say a quick playbook of how to build something that the user wants. Typically, and this works really well in B2B contexts. Typically, what happens, Bruce, is that all of us start a company thinking that this is a problem that I have faced. I think this should be fixed. And I end up, kind of fixing that for myself and then, kind of going and selling
Yeah.
it to other people. Right? Now, that is a very popular bottom up approach. I typically believe that in B2B scenarios specifically, that doesn't work because if it's a problem for me, it might be a very specific problem for me with a very small niche market, right? So bottoms up has typically not worked in B2B scenarios. Also, what happens is you can be in either you can be, kind of creating a market of your own, or you can work in an established market, right? Basically, either you go after a blue ocean by creating a market of your own, or you try to find blue spots in a red ocean, right? Now, creating a market of your own, which typically works in a bottoms up scenario, is insanely tough and requires massive amount of capital. 99% of people who are listening to your podcast as entrepreneurs will not be in that situation. So you're better off actually building something where you're trying to find the blue spots in a red ocean. And the way you do that is by actually not going bottom up and thinking what your problem is, but by going top down. And the way you do that is, and it's also the fastest way to find product market fit. The way you do that is, you if you try to find you try to find out a problem, but more importantly, you look at whether that problem is being solved by large companies or not, right? Large companies, unicorns, if they are solving that problem, then it actually suggests that there is a massive market opportunity there. That's why companies have solved that problem and become unicorns. Then what you do is for that particular problem, you figure out how a particular unicorn or a massive company is solving it, right? Now, what will happen is in a B2B scenario, that unicorn will not be solving all the problems in that domain for all the companies. Take the example of CRMs. Now, for every Salesforce, there is a HubSpot. For every HubSpot, there is a Pipedrive, right? That is because a single company like Salesforce, which is the largest B2B SaaS company in the world, cannot solve for all the verticals and cannot solve for all the segments of the business stack. So while a Salesforce is solving well for BFSI and for enterprises, there is a HubSpot which comes and says, you know what, you can do this for enterprises, but SMBs and mid market require a different kind of approach. So essentially, then what you do is in that big market opportunity that you've identified, study how these big companies, these unicorns are performing, and what are the gaps. So the first thing that you should do is build everything that basic stuff that these companies have built, because that will be required across all segments, across all verticals. Understand that those are the basic building blocks that every CRM would require. Taking the example of a CRM. Then you go deep, right? Then you find out niches. It could be verticals or it could be segments. Saying that within the CRM market, where is the gap, right? Is there a gap in, let's say, a vertical? So you then build a CRM for fintech. Or is there a gap in a segment? So you say, I'll build a CRM only for SMBs. So the whole, and that's how you get you to your product market fit. And once you get to your product market fit, you will be in a situation where you will be serving unending demand. And that's the situation you want to be in, because any startup, there are only two phases: pre-product market fit and post-product market fit. And the quickest and the cheapest way to get product market fit is find a problem that is being solved by multiple unicorns, multiple massive companies. build the basic building blocks that all these companies offer, and then try to find a niche by talking to customers of these companies on what this product is doing and what else can be done.
Right. Okay, so that's a very interesting thing. You are suggesting that people should go after like a red ocean where there's a lot more demand, but at the same time also more competitive as compared to just starting a new
Yes,
niche that might not have any proven demand yet.
absolutely. Because it is always difficult to create a new market opportunity. It requires insane amount of capital, right? It's always better to kind of find those blue spots in a red ocean, and then kind of expand subsequently.
So it sounds like you are relying a lot on product-led growth, but are there still any main channels that are working well for you in generating, let's say, new leads? And then what are those that aren't working well as expected?
I fundamentally
Channels
believe,
like, email or ads, things like that.
I think what has worked for us is account based marketing. So, as I told you, go after a big company in a particular vertical, build something, purpose build something for that company, and then go after every company in that vertical through account based marketing, right? So, get a list of all the companies in that vertical, reach out to them via email, reach out to them via LinkedIn, reach out to them via phone calls, get a case study ready, get a testimonial ready, show how you have really moved the needle for a big company in that vertical, and then start going after every company in that vertical. And for that, the simple playbook is outbound account based marketing.
Okay, got you. So, sort of, we are going into the last segment of this podcast here. What kind of shifts are you seeing in your industry right now, and then how is that impacting the growth of Good Meetings AI?
I mean, we've been on the bleeding edge of growth here in our vertical. As far as sales is concerned, I think that as I mentioned, a lot of sales-led activities will be driven by AI. It's already happening, right? And it's only a matter of time before more and more responsibilities in sales-led verticals are become AI driven. And I'll give you an example of how we are seeing this play out in the sales vertical and what we are doing. As I said, good meetings helps you increase your sales conversions and increase your revenue by helping kind of make your sales reps more proficient, right? Now, what we saw was the lowest hanging fruit in sales was call audit, right? And that was a tedious task full of drudgery. Today, that task is being done by Good Meetings AI. We audit 100% of the calls with 100% efficiency. So you don't need a separate audit team, right? You save money on your audit team, and therefore that's a direct impact on your P&L, right? Then what we realized was sales calling, right? Now, the first call that generally goes to a lead is a qualification call, which is by and large scripted. Today, we are actually building AI agents that can do that call end to end. So you don't need a separate, sales team to manage, right? Uh, so that is the second thing that we are seeing, and that we are also at the forefront. That AI agents are actually doing voice calls, right, and basically helping filter the leads, so that only filtered leads go to proper sales reps for their discussion. The third thing that is going to happen after this is the demo of the product itself, right, which is happening by account executives, will get automated. AI agents will start giving demos of products, and we have actually, kind of built a beta on that. So essentially, you don't even need a full
Okay,
fledged.
how have you been seeing? Yeah, just curious, how have you been seeing like the receptiveness or feedback from it from your prospects? Because would some people prefer more like a human touch where it will be presented by humans and then it's a more interactive, conversational.
Yes. So Bruce, that works well in when you're actually selling to B2B companies, right? And these B2B companies are selling very high value products. There, yes, touch, feel, everything works, right? As I said, travel, meet the customer. But in verticals where there are high velocity products, where the price point of the product is not very high, right? There, actually, what we are seeing is humans are being replaced, because any which ways those products were being sold completely remotely, right? So when those products were being sold completely remotely, essentially, you were anyways not really having a lot of human touch, right? It was all
I
being done
see.
either through voice or video calls. That segment is going to get disrupted massively today through AI, because agents will start replacing, humans there, and that's the place or the sweet spot where we actually operate.
Okay. Interesting. Seems like the sales industry is facing like a lot of disruptions right now. The lower level things like the CRM and handling all of the audits is more or less handled by AI now. Even like the lower level demo calls as well. So I think, is it right to say that the sales industry going forward will just focus more on like the human touch, especially for this B2B enterprises and account based marketing? It will be even more important for them to hone in their skills on this.
Yes, you're right on that.
Okay, interesting. And I wanted to circle back to like a point that you made earlier, regarding the channels, right? What sort of channels have you seen that isn't working as well? I know you rely on outbound account based marketing, but what are some strategies that you have found hasn't worked as well as you expected?
I think another channel that we have seen working well is events. So attending events, as well as kind of having booths in events, organizing small events. So essentially, one, you can attend events. Second, you can have booths in big events. Third, you organize small events, right? Which is very, very focused and targeted towards your ICP, your ideal customers, right? In different cities.
See.
That really works.
Okay, okay, got it. All right, then that's about it for the podcast interview. Srinivasan, once again, thank you for agreeing to come on this podcast as a guest and sharing all of these valuable insights with our audience. I'm sure they have found it valuable. So, yeah, once again, great pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Bruce. It was a pleasure talking to you and sharing my knowledge with your audience.